Hey guys, Rebel Engine 95, recording live from Will County Prison Cell. Uh, so after the conclusion of the, what is it, season 10, I believe, finale? Um, I'm not gonna go into any guesses of what the next fights are. First of all, I didn't really see I think I saw Tetsuo, but that was about it. Um, I'm just gonna be doing what I have ready to do. It's all backed up, and I don't have a ton of time as it is, so I might as well knock a few of these off rather than trying to, you know, come up with a guess of what's gonna happen next season. Um, and this is also a fight that I really wanted to do, not specifically because I wanted to do this fight in particular, but because I really like the series. And this fight is Q from Star Trek, right? The Star Trek franchise as a whole, but more specifically, starting from Star Trek Next Generation, I suppose, depending on what fan theories you subscribe to. And Mr. Mxyzptlk, that is how you pronounce it, by the way, from DC, more specifically Superman. Um, I am a very, very big Star Trek fan, and I don't really call myself a Trekkie because I'm like, a that's I don't like to associate myself with any particular one fandom, but also like for the longest time, Trekkie was fucking like insane. Like if you were a Trekkie, you were fucking committed. Like you were ready to jump on the starship and start working, right? So like you lived your shit. So um I don't really like to say that, but I have primarily I've seen most of I haven't read like the novels. I didn't really watch a lot of Enterprise, but I watched, I've seen a lot of the original series. I've seen almost all of Next Gen, if not all of Next Gen. I've seen almost all of DS9, if not DS9. My personal favorite, by the way. Almost all of Voyager, if not all of Voyager. So on and so forth. So, I'm a very big fan of Star Trek. Even to this day, I still, watch character analyses and I watch, like a lot of because I just love the lore and the building of I love the world building and everything. I, so I'd really like to have a Star Trek character in Death Battle. The first Star Trek fight I ever did was Borg versus Cybermen, which I'd love to remake, but it's just not really worth the it's not really worth the effort, to be honest. I mean, it is, but I'd rather like wait for it to. I'd rather like I'd rather wait for like them to actually do it. But if that's gonna happen, I'd also love to see a Doctor Who character in as well. So that's the other reason. Um. So having Q in a death battle would be phenomenal. And I just think the best opponent for him would be Mr. Mixius, but like they're both the same kind of. I mean, I could go like Q versus Discord, and they're both voiced by Jean Delancey, which is funny. Or well, I mean, Q is played by Jean Delancey, unless you count Upper Deck specifically. Um, but yeah, Discord is voiced by him as well, so that would be the other reason to. That'd be the other reason to do that. But I think Discord versus Bill Cipher was the best particular fight, and I also did that, and you should go watch it because I'm actually kind of proud of myself for that. But also, uh, like they just both have Q and Mister Mxyzptlk have the same sort of thing where they're going after like an advanced person or group of people, and kind of going out of their way to show their superiority. But anyway, let's get into this because this is a bit of a tricky one. No pun intended. So Q is really just a Q is more of a title than a name. The individuals in the Q continuum don't really have like they are individuals, but they don't have like individual names. They are all just known as Q due to the fact that they are, they are meant to be like representatives of this group. Um So the Q continuum are a race of all-knowing, all-powerful, omnipresent, omnipotent, essentially, godlike beings that have almost complete control over all of space, time, reality, what have you, matter, and all of that. And pretty much, they pretty much they know all, they see all, they can affect all. They are, they're apparent from, they exist at all points in time, except for the fact that they did. There's a few major outliers to they'd essentially be God if not for a few major things. They are a people and they did become this way. They evolved and advanced themselves to eventually become what they are. B, they do utilize in some form or another technology. They have, become these just enhanced beings, but they do in some shape or form utilize technology, and it is confirmed. Or at the very least that they did have to use technology to emulate the things that they can now do naturally, but they have been shown, not shown per se, but they have, it has been explicitly stated that they have made weapons and whatnot. The other thing is that they have, on occasion, in the event that they have been known to squabble with each other, they've shown to, be susceptible to each other. The continuum has removed Q, specifically the Q we're referring to, have removed his powers and made him mortal. They've, again, like I said, developed weapons that were intended to kill each other with, which, with the line of "you'd be surprised the weapons an immortal can make when they want to kill each other," meaning that they're not really immortal. They're just immortal until they face off against someone equally as powerful, which is like every character. It's every being. And there's also certain specific lines, like there are little cosmic nooks and crannies in the universe that are beyond the notice of the Q. Not necessarily that they can't find them, they just tend not to bother with them. Which, again, is kind of like, are you really all-powerful if you're not... Are you really all-seeing and all-knowing if you're not looking at the place where what you're looking for is? So there's those few things. But other than that, I mean, these are this is a character who has essentially decided to put humanity on trial due to not approving of the notion that humanity is worthy of its fast-paced evolution in the 23rd, 24th, whichever century that Next Gen takes place in. And I call myself... This is why I don't call myself a Trekkie. So, basically puts humanity on trial for its own crimes, saying that, oh, big deal, you're flying in starships. 400 years ago, you were, about to blow each other up, blow up your entire planet, and 400 years before that, you were fighting over tribal gods, so why does it matter if you're where you are now? You don't deserve to try to progress to where you're trying to be 400 years from now. Really, it was created out of jealousy and fear on the basis that humanity was advancing so quickly and showed so much potential that they could one day possibly surpass the Q continuum, that is. So, in the midst of putting humanity on trial, Q has literally created beings from the aether just from nothingness, right? And waved his hand and sent them back to the nothingness from whence they came, just erased them from existence. He's altered the entirety of human history. He's unmade human history. He's uncreated the all biological life on Earth. He went back to the point of the history of Earth where the first two proteins were ever going to join, and just said, nope, they'll never do it. He didn't force them not to. He just made it so that they never would. He's created singularities in 3 different points in time, causing 3 different universes to collide. He's caused the remake universe to collaborate, in comic form at least, the remake universe to collaborate with the main universe, or the Kelvin timeline, if you will. He's like just species like the Borg and whatnot, he's just completely toyed with, even though they are supposed to be this incredibly advanced race that are almost to the level of the Q. Q, to the point where entire species have dedicated like the rest of their existence to eradicating and killing him on the basis of how badly he screwed some of them over for fun. The other thing is that Q is kind of a trickster. He is kind of just like, the universe has become dull, so why don't I pick on the people that I'm, most intrigued by. So, Q has become this sort of like cosmic menace, but there's this degree of purpose behind it where he definitely needs to be involved with the affairs of man at some point. But essentially, aside from those few things I mentioned, Q is 100% improved, just infallible. Mr. Mxyzptlk is a little different. I know I rambled on about Q. This is probably going to be like a 20-minute episode. Mr. Mxyzptlk is a being from, I believe, the 5th dimension, and sees himself as being so far above all things in the 3rd dimension, and for the most part, he is right. He's capable of just making our reality his plaything on the basis that he just comes from a world that's far superior. But again, he does have that sort of Bill Cipher complex where, he hates the world he originates from, so he comes to ours to mess with it. Not because ours is better than his, but just because he can. Like I said, it's just his plaything. All of, to the extent where Joker, after tricking Mxyzptlk to, giving him 99% of his power, almost, like, conquered the entirety of reality. So, and not to mention, he also just fucks with Superman constantly by manipulating reality. He's, he's turned Lois Lane into glass, or that might have been Batmite, but Batmite is a very similar character, also from the 5th dimension. So anything Batmite can do, I would assume Mxyzptlk can do. In fact, Batmite and Mxyzptlk actually got into a contest over who could create the most mischief, and it ended up being a tie. So it's kind of determined that, yeah, they're more or less capable of the same thing. The only self-imposed limitation, though it's kind of debatable whether it's self-imposed or whether it's the nature of his actual species or being, from the dimension he's from, is that if he can be tricked into writing, in any way expressing his name backwards, which would be Caltipsism, that he is vanquished back to the 5th dimension and can't come back until he's got another plan in mind. He can't just come back because he feels like it. Other than that, he's pretty much capable of anything. I mean, he does. There is kind of like a Pennywise situation going on where he is limited to the laws of our reality in a sense, not in the sense that like he has to obey gravity or anything, but just like if he turns himself into a tank, he he can do what a tank does. You know what I mean? If he makes himself into kryptonite, then he has to be kryptonite. You know what I mean? He can't just like, oh, I'm kryptonite, but I don't have that. You know, yeah. He's kind of stuck when whatever, and that's usually been his downfall. Is that he'll become a rocket and accidentally be tricked into spelling his name backwards in the sky. Things like that. He is kind of limited by whatever form he takes, but the fact that he can change his form at any time and also manipulate the entire planet, manipulate people, manipulate matter, reality, time, space, just all that stuff. It's a fair trade-off. So who do I think is taking this? I'm a little biased, and I know that both of these characters are pretty much god level, with exception. But I am going to lean towards Q, and here's my reasoning. Q is infallible up to the point where other godlike characters are involved. Q can be bested by either his own doing or by, the beings of equal, can't really say greater, but equal, ability. But Mxyzptlk, again, whether it's based off of his own rules or based off of, just the nature of his dimension, is bested by, not, I wouldn't say normal people. He's bested by Superman and Batman and whatnot, but he's bested by, non godlike beings. So he's also kind of an idiot. Like, yes, he exists on he's from a higher plane, but like, he's kind of an idiot. Q, even after being robbed of his powers, was said to have an IQ of like 2,600 or something. So Q, with his infinite understanding or whatnot, would more than likely be able to. I think he would be able to find a way to, best Mxyzptlk. The fact that, like, yes, a being like Mxyzptlk could, challenge Q. It's, like I said, anything of like any other godlike being has shown to be able to challenge Q, but nobody's had to be a god to best Mxyzptlk before. So I think this kind of, one has been shown to fail where the other hasn't, and in a battle between gods, it's not really who's stronger, but who's the least perfect. And I think that would be undoubtedly Mr. Mxyzptlk. It reminds me of the old atheist argument of, could God create a being more powerful than himself? If not, then he's not capable of something, and therefore he's not perfect. And if so, well, then something could be more powerful than him, so he's not the most powerful you could be. No, it's just a fun thing to think about. But yeah, I really would love to see a Star Trek character. I think Borg versus Cybermen probably beats this in my, what I would prefer to have in a Star Trek death battle, but this one's pretty up there as well. Anyway, Purple Engine 95. See ya.